we're not gonna write any code for it, and it allows you to connect to different systems without the need to write code. Anyone is familiar with what is the Lambda equivalent in Azure, or how can you write a small piece of code and run it on serverless on Azure? Did I hear something here? Functions, exactly, Azure Functions. So Azure Functions is where you can write code and have it hosted and run without having to worry about servers. We're not going to even use that today. So for this demo, I'm going to go ahead and create a logic app. So in order to create a logic app, you click on Add. I know this is probably small, so maybe let me just bring in my zoomer. Perfect. So what you need to do to create any resource in Azure, whether it's a virtual machine, a Kubernetes cluster, ACI. You like ACI? Pretty quick. You can do AKS, which is a Kubernetes cluster, or ACS, others. So any of those resources can be created from the menu here. If you click Add, that's going to take you to a search box, which will allow you to find whatever we have in the marketplace, including the Microsoft native services and the partners' native services as well. So I'm going to look for Logic App. So this is going to return few results. I'm going to choose the Logic App and then click Create. So the last thing in this piece I'm going to show you here is when you do create, and this applies to any resource in Azure, whether, again, a virtual machine, SQL Server, NoSQL database, MongoDB, Cosmos, Cassandra. So you basically give it a name. So most of them will take a name, and then you specify which group it belongs to. You have this concept of resource groups where you can group things in folders or groups. And then you specify the location. So what does this location do? Define where the resources are going to be deployed, which data centers they're going to go to. It can be in Europe, India, Singapore, China, so you can choose whatever location works for you. So for the interest of this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and use a created app already, which is empty, and then we're going to fill it up together. So let me go ahead and zoom out. So here I have a logic app, which comes with the designer inside the portal. So that's where you can design your application. You can also design your application inside Visual Studio, if you're familiar with Visual Studio. So the way this works is you define how do you want your app to be triggered? How do you want your app to start? This can be as simple as a web request, so it can be like a web API. You just do an HTTP request for it, and then it will come up. Or it could be, hey, listen on a folder, listen on Google Drive, or wait until a new record is added in SQL Server. You specify the connection string. Or it could be, listen on the new entity in Salesforce. So we have different types of connectors that supports different types of triggers. I'm going to go ahead and select blank application. So the first step is to define my trigger. In my case, I'm going to use OneDrive. Anyone familiar with OneDrive? Few? Okay. So OneDrive. Anyone familiar with Google Drive? Dropbox.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very similar. So basically, storage in the cloud. It's better. OneDrive is better. I like that. I like that. This guy's going to take a prize. All right. So I'm going to choose OneDrive. So what that means is, hey, listen on OneDrive, and it will list all the different things I can listen on. I'm going to listen on the event where a new file is created. And I'm going to specify the interval of how often I check. So I'm going to check every few seconds. So that's going to be my first step. And the next thing, I'm going to upload a picture to this folder. That's the picture I'm going to take to analyze. the next step I would like to do here is to analyze the picture. And because the analysis will come with different variables and different results, I'm going to create a variable here to be able to manage this better. And you'll see why in the next steps. So I'm just going to go to variable. So the next step will be initialize a variable, which means create a variable. And that's going to be a string. And the next step is to do the actual analysis. So we're going to build a machine learning model now. It's going to be a classification model. We'll take thousands of pictures and train it. Of course not, right? So we're going to use an existing API that does this. So Azure does have a list of, we call them cognitive services. Those are existing APIs that already trained that allows you to send data to them and they will give you results. So one of those services is called the Vision API. So I'm going to go ahead and search for Vision. Oh, I like the microphone. Computer Vision API. And I'm going to choose describe image. So that's what I'm looking for. It's going to basically give me the, describe the image for me. So before I started this demo, I have created an instance of the Vision API. It's just another object in Azure, which will give you then a key. That key is what you can use to authenticate to the service and use it. And this is how we build it. So I've done that already. So it didn't ask me about connection. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to receive the actual image content because you can also point it to a URL. And in that case, the image content is going to be coming from the previous step, which is the image that I received in OneDrive. So I'm going to say file content. So now I'm done. The next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to place that result, the result of that describe image step inside that variable. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a set variable step. I'm going to choose my variable, image description. And in there, I can choose, you can see this helper that shows on the right, shows me all the things I have so far. So a new item showed up, which is describe, which is caption text. So this is going to be the actual caption, the description of the image. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. And you can see automatically it did add a for loop for me because it returns a list. And I know it's only one, so I don't care if I loop it a few times. So I'm going to just type in a few words here before. This photo is... And the next step is to send this to an email. So I'm going to go ahead and add another step here where we're going to send an email. Let me zoom out. Zoom it that way. Add an action. I'm going to send an email, and you can see every time I search for one of the steps here, or the actions, you're going to see that I get a lot of results. So we do support sending email using Outlook Office 365. We can use Gmail, or any of the existing email services that you're aware of, the common ones. So I'm going to go ahead and use this, send email using Outlook. Again, because I've authenticated already to it, it's not going to ask me to authenticate. And then I'm going to specify my email address. And then in the subject, I'm going to put the name of the image, which is the file name. And in the body, I'm going to put my description. So I can go ahead and execute this, and that's going to send an email with the description.
So the classification is from captions. Is it reading all the classification images from captions, or where is the classification?
So this step right there, so the question is it reading the classification text from here? So basically, you can see that step right there. Let me just zoom out, because this is... So that step right there, image, describe image, is going to take the picture, and then it will extract few tags to describe the image, and also an English English statement that describes the image. So when we run it, you're going to see the results. But before I do this, I want to add more. Let's just add also the ability to read out the description. So I'm going to add one of the other services that we have, which is called, it's under the translation or big APIs, and it does speech to text or text to speech. So I'm going to go ahead and search for this. So you can see we have a few APIs here. Detect language. So this is very helpful if I'm going to support multiple languages and I don't want to go and just keep changing. Okay, this is English, this is Mandarin. I can just do detect language and it will detect it. We also have text to speech, speech to text, get languages, and so on. So I'm going to do text to speech, and I'm going to specify it. The text in my case is going to be whatever I have in my variable, and then I'm going to choose the language. In that case, I know the language is English. And we support multiple dialects over there, so I'm just going to choose English, maybe United States. And then the last thing I want to do here, I want to make sure I add this voice to text to my workflow. So let me go ahead and save this. And it looks like I forgot to choose which folder I'm going to listen on, so I'm going to choose pictures. So that's going to load all my folders. I'm going to go ahead and select pictures. And where is my send email? Oh, I see. There it is. So we'll just take this one out. It's not supposed to be inside the loop. It's supposed to be outside. So one of the things I can do, I can also add attachments. So in that case, I'm gonna add the actual picture that we took. So that's going to be, the file name is going to be the file name, and then the actual content is going to be the actual bytes. And then I'm going to add another attachment. In that case, it's going to be the description in English. So I'm just going to call it descript MP3, and the actual content, which is the audio file. I know it's a little small. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this and give it a try. So the good thing about Logic App is you also can troubleshoot. You have a lot of troubleshooting, good troubleshooting experience. So I can run this and see how the flow goes live. So I'm going to use my phone, and I'm going to use an application in the store called Office Lens. Anybody knows Office Lens? One guy? Okay, two? Perfect. So Office Lens is an application part of the Office suite that allows you to scan a picture as if you're scanning a document. So it'll flatten the picture, help you scan documents with the camera.
One of my favorite. One of my favorite.
One of your favorite. Okay, cool. We have two fans over there. Yeah, it's a very good app. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that. It's called Office Lens, L-E-N-S. So here's the application. And this application can push directly to OneDrive. That's why I'm going to choose that. So we'll take a picture. So let me take a picture here. And then as soon as I save the picture, it's going to show up here. And you'll see the flow starting to work. So you can see it picked up the picture, the first green tick over there. And then it will initialize the variable, and then it will convert it to speech. It looks like we have a few errors here, so let's go ahead and take a look. So I can go ahead and click on the first output here and see what's the output. So if you're curious about the output of the described image, so you can see here it shows you, or it returns a JSON object. So and it gives you some tags. So it says indoor. Person, I guess some of you guys there, computer, table, main setting, desk, and so on. So it just gives you a few tags. And then it also gives you a description, a group of people sitting at a table with a laptop. Close enough. So let's go ahead and see what the error is. So I'm gonna, let me zoom out. Let's go ahead and edit this really quickly. So I'm going to go to the designer view again. So I can go ahead and look at the previous runs, and I can rerun a failed execution here. So I'm going to go ahead and rerun this. I'll click resubmit. Small error. We're just setting the variable before we, after we use it. So let me just move this. Okay, perfect. So we'll just save this and run it again. We set it, then we do this. Okay, perfect. So let me just go ahead and resubmit. So what we expect with this is to receive an email with the image description and the voice description as well. So let me go ahead and open my Outlook. Should have done that already. And this is successful. So the next thing we're going to do after I show you the result is to do the translation. So if you remember, we wanted to also do OCR translation. So we're going to try to get this quickly in 5 minutes. Anyone have any questions? Any questions so far? Go ahead. The whole exercise?
Yeah.
Not really, but we plan to make another session or meetup just about that.
So essentially you are creating a serverless app which is
Correct.
and who is monitoring this new photo arrival on OneDrive? There should be some agent who is listening this event to trigger this app. Am I right?
Correct.
So essentially serverless is not really serverless.
Correct. That's why I started with it. So the question is, I mean, you're building this application, and there's something monitoring your application. So the service isn't really serverless. There are servers running, and that's correct. So there are servers, but the reason we call it serverless because you haven't seen me just choose any type of servers or even the size or the scale. It will automatically handle that for you. So that's why it's really convenient. You usually focus on your logic as opposed to focus on the infrastructure. So I received the email. I'm going to go ahead and play it. So the email looks as we expected, and then here's the text, the voice.
This photo is a group of people sitting at a table with a laptop.
All right? Fair?
Very
So
good.
I received a challenge from the first row here to Mandarin. So let's go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
All right. To which language? So how can we do this? We can add a translation API here. So I'm going to add another action. And I'm going to look for translation.